Welcome to Kill Team Public Radio, your source for Northeast Kill Team content. We're broadcasting from the trenches, doing the grim work to bring you the latest Kill Team news and sharpest tactics. Tune in as we connect with players across New England and beyond, building community and pushing strategy in the 41st millennium. Thank you for tuning in to Kill Team Public Radio. I'm your host, Kurt.
And I'm Milton. For our first episode, we'll be bringing you several segments featuring the New York Open Tournament and the New England Kill Team scene.
We hope to be on a 2-week release schedule, looking to bring you up-to-date news and events from kill zones far and wide.
Do the internet things if you like this content. Like, subscribe, comment, and share.
Our first segment comes to you from New York. Welcome. You've killed into Kill Team Public Radio. I'm Kurt with my host Milton, and we're here to interview Callum and Will, fresh off their wins from the New York Open. Let's dive into the action. Reporting from the trenches. Will, please introduce yourself.
Hey, my name's Will York, or William York. I'm from Maine. I play out of Phyrexian Life Games in Scarborough, Maine. My meta is the New England meta, as I am one of the TOs and organizers and players within the New England meta and try to play between all 6 states. So it's a great time.
And Callum, please go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, my name's Callum McEwen. Live in Connecticut, just outside of Hartford. Play Blades of Cain, typically the Battle Standard on Thursdays.
And I'm your other host, Milton Weatherhead, out of Burlington, Vermont. We wanted to talk with y'all about the New York Open. Since you both attended, we had a pretty decent-sized crew go down from New England, which is great. And I guess we'll start with Will. Going into kind of prep for NYO, did you know that you wanted to go in playing Deathwatch? Did you have any other teams that you were considering playing, or kind of an idea of the metagame in mind?
Yeah, so I started doing prep for New York Open. I knew that the season was going to change, so in early August I switched over to Inquisition, kind of to hedge my bets into the new season change. Callum and I actually played in a tournament where I had played literally, I think, 4 games at that point of Inquisition, which was just wild. But what ended up happening was the season switched. And when TAC ops were revealed and missions and layouts and things like that, it was abundantly clear that I didn't think Inquisition was gonna be a tough team to play at the New York Open based on the Canoptic matchup and a few other things. And so I then switched over to Deathwatch. I put in, and I think before the New York Open, I put in about 25 games. I played 1 tournament. I felt good with them, and my hope was to go down to the event and do well.
Nice. And so just kind of a follow-up question on that, because you talked about basing the decision to go to Deathwatch off of the change in Proved Ops 2025. Do you feel like it was more based off of like Deathwatch having the tools to deal with Canoptech, or like I've heard from a lot of people that they feel the new Approved Ops feels better playing elite teams than a Horde team like Inquisition, or like was that kind of one of the major components for you?
So I think one of the pieces I realized, and I think playing Callum too was really helpful to this, was that Inquisition's matchup into elves is just really challenging. So assuming that the meta was going to have a lot of Blades of Cain with the access to the 4 TAC ops made sense. So I just kind of made that assumption. It was we had a really tight game. I had an opportunity to play Zach and Steven as well in a lot of practice games with Inquisition, and just realized that it was a really challenging matchup for them. When I switched over to Deathwatch, one of the things that I really enjoyed about them is just, I'm finding right now that the TAC ops and in general scoring is about 4 to 6 points less on average than I was scoring in the previous season. And I think the reason why is that the TAC ops, regardless of what you're taking and what faction you're playing, they just don't score as high. So at that point, I kind of moved over to more of that kill-friendly kind of kill op as being kind of that primary and that focus of my game plan. And I realized if I was going to play any team, the best team to do that was going to be Deathwatch. So, and that really been the case. In 4 out of 6 of my games at New York Open, I took kill op as my primary.
Nice. And so, I guess I kind of had the same question for Callum. in your prep for NYO, and did you go in, figuring like you play Blades of Cain and that's kind of what you're always going to run, or was there a decision-making process on what team
No,
you're going to bring?
the former. I've been playing Blades Kane pretty much exclusively for the last 6 or 7 months. I was playing Corsairs kind of when I started playing Kill Team, and I just had the Scorpions, and then I feel like Blades of Cain are kind of like a little bit better Corsairs. You still got the movement, you have genuine 3 APL, got the flexibility in the attack ops. Really like the team, so yeah, it wasn't really a decision. I was like, I'm playing this team. It doesn't matter if any of the matchups are good or bad. This is what I'm good with, and that's what I'm going to take. So,
Very cool.
I actually think they're quite good into Canoptek.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've played Kurt quite a few times, and I played 2 other Canoptek players at MYO, and I haven't lost to Canoptek yet.
Our next question is, what was there any training you did prior to the event? And I was going to mention that I bet you played Canoptek a lot at NYO, and I think we got four games in prior to you going, and you won every one of them.
Yep.
A couple real close, but you won every one of them.
Yeah. A lot of games against Kurt with Canoptek, and played Chris and Eric with Deathwatch as well. So I was able to get enough games in against the new teams to kind of be familiar with what they can do, what I want to try and avoid, how I want to play my games into them.
So I guess that kind of brings up an interesting question, since we've already talked a little bit about Will's process of how he prepped for the event, and kind of touched on metagame. Were there any like particular matchups that you were worried about going into NYO and with the new teams out?
Yeah, I was certainly concerned about the Canoptek. I was concerned about the Canoptek matchup particularly. That was a matchup that I was concerned about. I was also concerned about the Blades of Cain matchup, which I had played a number of games with Zach into. I was concerned about the Elites matchup because of scoring. I like to take Dominate, which is, I know, ludicrous into Elite options because it's hard to score. But I played a lot of games with Eli and a couple of folks, Luke, in my meta. So, kind of realized I'm going to score 3 or 4 on this and be okay with it. The last matchup was Nemesis Claw, which I played Ulysses at NYO. And I think, again, it comes back to it. Those Elite matchups into Deathwatch are particularly challenging.
Callum, when you were starting doing your training, you were crushing me. So for Canoptek, were you worried about that, or were there other anti-elf teams that you thought could be the boogeyman?
I played them round 1. Goremongers are just a headache. I still have to work that one out. I've played that a lot of times. As you know, Kurt Tom, who's a very good player in our meta here, he's playing them at the moment. Finally got a tie with him this week, and that's after like 8 or so games. So Goremongers I was worried about. Played to them, lost. And Brood Brothers, I think, is a pretty tough matchup for Blades Kane as well. Any of the kind of 11, 12 model horde teams, they can be difficult with the new tac ops. Well, most of the new crit ops involve some kind of control. So can you maintain that control on the center objective without losing somebody? Because if you're trading 1 for 1, or God forbid less than that, you're going to have a hard time.
Yeah, and that was one of the interesting things, because I wasn't able to make it to NYO, but I was obsessively looking at the results as they came in from each round because there were so many people from New England playing. Can you tell us a little bit about that first game and sort of how you kind of carried on the rest of the tournament from there?
Sure. So my first game, I played into Phobos, and I lost by 1 point. I made a pretty critical error, which was the Vox Breaker. I did not realize turned off defensive rerolls as well as attacking rerolls, which was rough. And so at that point, I was kind of on the back foot a little bit there. I was able to make up ground, but in the end, he was able to score out Steel Intelligence for an extra point.
But Callum, I know you had a kind of a hard day one, the loss right off the bat, and then the tie. What were you thinking when you started out day two? Did it change your play? Were you more cagey?
No, I had no expectations going into day two. I was like, okay, obviously I'm not going to win this. I've got a loss, a tie, and a win, so just going to go out there and have fun. And I had three really great games on the second day. I won the first match in the morning, and when I took lunch, I'm like, okay, like I'm feeling all right about that. Felt pretty good. Then I played Nestor with Canoptech the second game. That was very close. That really, like, if he'd chosen a different primary, we would have tied, and that would have been the end of any kind of run for me. Yeah, I felt like I was getting better as the day went on. I was kind of laughing at the end of day one. I was like, oh, like I was worried I was going to be just playing Canoptech and Deathwatch, and I didn't play them once in the first day. I played Goremongers, Aquilons, and Wrecker Crew.
I ended up playing 6 unique teams through the event. What about you, Cal?
I played Canoptech twice.
It's still 5 different matchups then, right?
Still 5 different matchups.
That's awesome.
But yeah, I was expecting to play Raveners, Canoptech, and Deathwatch. And
Nice.
yes, so somehow I ended up 4th overall, which I was very surprised with. Like even I finished up my last game, and I was like, okay, cool. I won 3 today. Like maybe if I'm lucky, I'll be in the top 10. I didn't expect that. I didn't even know best overall was like a thing you could win. So I was not ready for it when Travis came up to me and he was like, yeah, can you put your models up on the table for judging? And he's like, yeah, if you get a golden ticket, will you take it? And I was like, no. I wasn't ready for this. I wasn't, wasn't in my plan. My plan really was to go down there and try and win half my games. So I was really stoked with how everything went. Yeah.
That's fantastic.
And it was fun. It was really fun. I think that was my biggest takeaway is I'll go again next year. And for me, I just started playing Kill Team in general in the last, since like early 2025. And that was my first like major event of GT. So I went into it with a kind of, I wanted to test out how I felt about that sort of format of event and whether it was even something I was interested in. And yeah, I loved it.
That's awesome, dude. I'm so happy. This is coming from player and TO, Will, that has seen you play a lot and seen Ben had the opportunity to be with you at NYO. You've put in the work. Like you've been grinding. I don't think enough people notice that. I certainly do. I look at the stats every week, and the fact that you're playing the amount of tournaments that you play shows that. And I think I'm not surprised I'm not surprised one bit you placed 4th. And you've been doing the work, my man. You've been crushing it. Yeah.
Thanks, dude. No, I've been enjoying it. I think that's the big one for me. Feel really lucky to like found a hobby in the last year that I'm like really into. So yeah.
Fantastic.
Good. Worth the trip.
Also, just quick shout out because I was looking at the results. You're the only Blades of Cain player in the event, and I'm clearly personally invested in the team doing well. So I was excited about that. And to the next question I had for you here, Will, did you have a particular favorite game or like a most cinematic moment in a game that you wanted to talk about?
My most cinematic game was absolutely Deathwatch into Deathwatch. Played this fine gentleman. His name was Nate, and he was from part of the New York Open team, the New York meta team. Our game took 45 minutes. Let's start with that. Like Deathwatch into Deathwatch, you don't need very much time. I think the craziest part was we were really good about being mindful that not to see our rosters until we shared, because I think when you do a mirror, you have to be super conservative on not sharing any roster information or equipment information. You got to write that stuff down. You got to hide that and then share, because you can really mess it up. I assumed he was going to take shooting. I took melee to counter. My big hammer guy charged in, who was at the event, was -2 damage of 4 or greater, which was really great. And he fought the Aegis and the Breacher and he killed the Aegis for sure, and then I'm pretty sure he killed the Breacher, or he very much absolutely like almost killed him, right? And anyways, we I think there was another activation, didn't matter. Like we've had our turn, and Breacher dies, so this hammer guy has now killed two guys, and he's sitting on his objective, and so he comes around the corner with a marksman to finish him off, which he does, but unfortunately left himself within an inch of his plasma gunner, who's like clearly in another room on Tomb World, and my I took one gunner to keep him honest, so my plasma gunner like moved dashes and shoots with lethal 5-up and then like special issue blast and like kills the marksman outright. And then I think he like pretty much nearly kills the plasma gunner as well. And that was like this crazy, 4-for-2 trade basically. And then game was over. Great time. Nate, very good player, very fun, learned a lot. Cannot wait to play him again. It was a great time.
Is a really solid dude. I remember him at Ironworld this summer. And a shout out to him. His ratlings weren't just ratlings. He had rats as ratlings. He had used the Age of Seven.
Oh, nice.
And it was amazing. It was truly amazing with rat ogres for his Volgren.
I think I saw those recently online on like Reddit or something. It might have been somebody else doing the same thing, but that's super cool. But we've talked a little bit about kind of cinematic moments here. One of the big concerns that a lot of people have about getting into tournament play, especially with a larger GT where something like a golden ticket is on the line, is how sweaty it's going to get. So, like on the sweatometer, how did y'all feel New York Open was?
Definitely not sweaty. No, I was expecting it to be a lot sweatier than it was.
Oh, that's really good to hear from the more casual player's perspective, even though, I mean, you ranked fourth, so you're a little more than a casual player at this point, my friend.
You've played me, Kurt, something, because it was my first big event that kind of really struck me was how quick anybody was to call the TO. I actually really appreciated that. That was something I wasn't, I'm used to playing kind of these smaller local events in New England, and you'll just kind of hash it out with your opponent. And I noticed all the guys from the New York kill team meta, like as soon as you're just like, well, I don't think, they just put their hand up and get a TO.
Yeah, it's nice to not have any like adversarial thing crop up in the game, because those are oftentimes the things that somebody ends up walking away feeling bad about.
Right, that'll set the game on a path sometimes, where I don't think it's obscured. Well, I think, all right, well, let me come around your side of the table. Let me get the late, just put your hand up, get the TO. Someone else will work it out. Then you can blame them. No, I like that. I like that a lot.
It felt like it was a crisp day in New England without a jacket. I really didn't at any point really sense the sweat. It felt like I was playing, a fun Saturday. It felt very casual, very laid back. I had an opportunity to play Ulysses, who I haven't seen in, a long time, who's down in North Carolina now and is very good and used to be a, New England staple. And as we're setting up, Travis came over and he knew that we were friends. Came over and was like, hey, if you do this barbed wire here, it doesn't work the way you think it does. And, we were just like kind of walked through. It was a really interesting rules interaction from a GW official, essentially. Travis runs most of the GW events. So,
yeah, and one of the really nice things about the Kill Team community is that it's largely pretty nice, especially here in New England. Feel really lucky to be playing here. Obviously, I like the community a lot. But yeah, it's nice to see that at larger events too, instead of it, becoming a problem. Like, you see people talk online and any bad examples get blown out of proportion.
I think one of the strengths of this event is, strangely enough, is timing. I think that's really important about this, because right now in our calendar, we have essentially Nova, London Open, and LVO, and they're all within like an 8 to 10 week span. So, and then you have Worlds on top of that. So I think it's really hard for a lot of players to attend all of these events. So they're picking events that they want to attend. That means that the attendance rate at events are a little bit smaller. What we saw, I think, at New York Open particularly, was most of the players who had already received golden tickets were probably saving their money to go to the New York, go to Worlds and not to New York Open.
For the last question on our list here, and Callum, if we could start with you, since sort of somebody newer to the tournament scene, do you have any recommendations for folks thinking about doing NYO next year, whether that's like do it or anything about the trip itself?
Yeah, don't travel down the morning of. I wouldn't recommend that. I'm not doing that again. That was definitely a mistake. No, really go for it. Get a couple of the guys you play with locally to come down with you. I think, we'll plan ahead, right? I kind of decided that I wanted to go like late September. I was like, you know what, I'll give this a shot. So yeah, just go for it. It's it's not sweaty. It was really fun. And I think the last thing really is not to kind of get over focused on how you perform. I think that's kind of apprehension for a lot of newer players, right? Is to be worried like, oh, I don't want to lose all my games. But Ethan, who's one of the guys who plays Battle Standard, he came down with me. He does not play as regularly as I do. He did pretty well. He got 2 wins.
Nice. Kind of to what you're talking about there, but like it's important to define your win conditions and have realistic expectations. And so, going in, like, all right, like I want to win half my games. I want to go in and not make incredibly stupid mistakes and blunder all my models away and just like play a tight game. Or for somebody really new, just get used to playing in a tournament setting, and who cares what the scores are at the end of the day. Defining your win conditions and being reasonable about them is one of the easiest things you can do to have a consistently better tournament experience, in my opinion.
I would also piggyback on that if you're playing a newer team or you're playing a team you're unfamiliar with, just like I've set a win condition of I want to use all my ploys this game, right? Or at least all the ones that apply this game, and just so you're pushing yourself within the confines of whatever team you're playing at the time.
Like trying to intentionally use tools to get better with them in tournaments. There was a tournament I went up to in Montreal a while ago where my win condition was that I am going to use Dance of Death in every game. Like I'm going to find that the ploy to swap models positions. I showed up to the tournament being like, I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to use it every single game. I will find ways to make this better. And when I started forcing myself to do it, it was like this whole other world of bizarre plays opened up. It's like, oh, you can do that to people. Interesting.
That's what I like about the Canoptic Circle and the teleport ability is when you really start mucking around with where can I teleport a spider drone, like it starts getting kind of crazy. I know it's only 3 inches, but if you're outside a Volcus stronghold, you can teleport to the upper floor of the Volcus stronghold and just rain death on anywhere on the board. And like I don't think people realize that at first. Teleport ignores vertical height, and it's just over there now. I played a New England Beta Decima this past weekend, and I did a double teleport one turn and then the next turn, and I got a spider drone up to the very top middle cylinder, and I just started raining death down on goremongers, and there wasn't a lot of places for him to hide, and it just worked out. And the teleport maneuver can be very sneaky. I also I didn't win the game, but it worked to ice 1 or 2 of Kelm's screeching banshees. I fell back to the matrix and then shot him from the matrix because I gained the APL, and so that's a little trick there.
Yeah, that one hurts. Yeah. So Kurt, you just reminded me of one criticism. The one criticism that I have for NYO is that there was no New England Beta Decima.
Oh,
Hold that thought. So the night before, I
shame.
absolutely joshed Travis on that. I was like, why aren't we playing New England Beta Decima? He's like, Will, you guys are the only people on Earth right now that are playing Beta Decima. Like,
Ah.
and it's not even all of your New England meta. It's like, it's the coastline. So like he's like, is it? And then it was interesting because I was doing setup with all these folks, and everyone's like, yeah, they're great. We really enjoy playing it. Blah 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 blah. I made a post about it the other day about how like Zach and I were really worried about the season shift with the reroll because you always just take the reroll card because there's no reason not to because the
Yeah,
sides
sure.
are symmetrical. But we've found in practice that it actually the reroll card is strong, but it's not game breaking as much as take ground and contain was game breaking on
Take
New
ground
England Beta.
a little broken on it. Yeah.
Oh, it's brutal. So like those two things, it makes it feel better there. So we're like, all right, that's good. And
It
he's
has a
like,
lot of
nobody plays it.
playability.
Will like.
Has a lot of playability.
Yeah,
It's so much
honestly,
fun.
I think Vulcan sucks ass. Like, the new Vulcus maps are like, sure, they're different, but they still suck ass. And like every time I play New England Beta Decima in this new season, I'm like, this is phenomenal. Why aren't people playing this all the time? And everyone who's was there that I talked to about it's like, oh, this has been great. We love playing it, but we're scared of swimming. And you're like,
Hmm.
God damn it.
No
Also,
one actually
you don't have,
swims. What are they talking about? Only Raveners swim if they
they're
do a
just like,
tunnel under they do the big
they,
dig,
they're
right? That's all they do.
it's stupid. And I've said it so many times on so many different ways of saying it is saying like if you want to keep your meta from being bullshit, play New England Beta Decima because it means like Sanctifiers couldn't play very well on it. It meant that Raveners couldn't play very well on it. It meant that Canoptic couldn't play very well on it. But you also see like Mandrakes and Ratlings and Blades of Cain, they do fine on it. They don't regular Beta Decima, they suck ass, but like on New England it can make it work.
Nemclaw really
Definitely
like it.
elites are favored on it, but elites are favored on everything. So who cares? No, I'm not going to. I'm actually. I guess I can segue that, but I'm not going to end up being go to Worlds. My father-in-law is coming to town that weekend, so
Oh
I'm
no.
not going to be able to go. And so unfortunately, we'll have to pass it up. Was took the ticket, thought I could go, and then my wife and I we actually figured out I could not go. So
No.
it's all right.
Oh, question for you, Will. So now you said you're not going to make it to Worlds. If you were going to Worlds, would you play Deathwatch?
Ooh, that's a great question. I've had about a half a dozen people reach out to me to ask me what they should take to Worlds, and I've been like, eh. If Callum was to ask me, I'd say Blades of Cain because he's been playing the hell of it. No one's saying anything.
My answer to almost anyone would be whatever you're most comfortable with.
But what's been interesting is like I've had a conversation with a couple of players that do well, and they're like, I don't know what to take, and I boiled it down at least for the Unga Bunga crayon style. Like what three factions you would play it would be Deathwatch for sure. Rekka Crew is still pretty good into that with especially with the new changes. And then third would be Inquisition.
With the new tac ops, there's really good balancing in not a lot of just auto point things. Like I loved Accolons because you could auto point on Storm. I'm dropping on your objective. You weren't there. Haha. That's 2. That's 4. That's 6. Right. And so I found under playing at least when I've played Raveners, I've played the new Necrons, and I've only maxed the tac op once, and that was off retrieval with the Necrons. And I think that's the closest I can find for an auto score for that team. But they've done a lot better to sort of eliminate that, which I think is good for just the overall health of the game itself.
I 1000% agree. So, and I can say that analytically as well. So I track all of my practice games and my tournament games, but in tournament games, I've seen a 5-point drop. It's that wild between the first season of KT24 and KT25. So consistently I was scoring 20 point blah 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 per game in KT 24 season 1. Now I'm consistently scoring 15 point blah 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 blah. Which is great. Like it means that the games are much closer. Also the margin of victory for me is has gone from like 13 points down to 6 points, which is really good. Like that's healthy. That's solid. We're in a good spot. I really think we're going to be playing much closer games, which is awesome. And that's more fun. Like, it's great. And yeah, there's like sometimes you get some auto scores, but they don't happen very often. And I think a part of the New York Open, this is my third year going. I've done setup for the last 2 years, and this year when I was doing setup, I realized the event was going to be a lot better than it had in years past. It was a really great group of players that were going to be there. I met a bunch of folks from the Midwest who were unbelievably gentlemen, unbelievable players, just really nice people. We had more space this year, which was really nice. So the environment was a little bit quieter and it was easier to spread out. And I was really grateful that I took Death Watch because it made games a little bit more comfortable. And I just had a fantastic time. The New York Open was just a wonderful event, well run, unbelievable players and skill, but also just unbelievably kind and great sportsmanship. So it was just an event that I was really happy to attend and have some success at. Probably 50 plus GTs and majors between Kill Team and 40K over the 15 years. This was like top three best events I've ever been to. It was so well run. The community there was incredibly kind. The sportsmanship was so high. It was just so much fun. I cannot say it enough. So, if you're thinking about New York Open, hopefully Travis takes these words and continues to do it how he operated it this year. I do want to make this plug. This team tournament took, I think it was 4 edits for the player packet. It was not written by me. It was written by everybody. Milton put pieces in, and Chris put pieces in, and Jesse put pieces in. We pulled some folks from New Hampshire and from Mass and from Maine, and this is like a labor of love. I'm so excited to have kind of a weird week. Eli is going to TO for us. He's really excited. He's obviously run our TTS league for the last 3 months here. He has a ton of experience with running that, so he's going to be really excited to run it. It's going to be a chill weekend with a ton of prize support in Maine. Like, it's going to be a great time. We're all going to get to have this with Connecticut there. We have right now 6 teams, which is sweet because it means there's no bye round, so we don't have to worry about that. Rhode Island, that doesn't give you an excuse not to attend. So it's going to be a really good time. And I think if I can give this plug is you see me a lot at all your events or I'm running events, go out and play them. When you have opportunities to go out, be like Callum and go out and just play in events and have fun. It's okay to do really well. It's okay to lose every single game. It doesn't matter. You get to be with your friends, get to have a good experience with the community. I think we are blessed as a New England community with incredibly talented players with great sportsmanship and great TOs. So and community leaders. We can't forget about Jesse. Okay. He has a plug. He doesn't, he does so much for our community. I'm just grateful for that. And, I think we're going to do really cool things in the upcoming year. Hopefully run, I think 6 GTs, which is insane. I think I'm running 5 of them right now. But that's all right. And, I'm really grateful that, Wicked Dicey and our folks in Vermont are able to bring these products together for really good events. And we'll see really high play from Callum and Thomas and Steven and Eli and Zach. And but I think the thing I'm most excited to leave on this is I'm excited to figure out who's the new version of that. As Callum becomes kind of the old guard now after a year of play and doing very well, who's the new guy coming up? I'm excited to see that. So it's been a great time, great opportunity to be in this position to help lead our community.
Awesome. Thank you both and for showing up on our first debut episode, Milton and I. We really appreciate you being here.
Yeah,
thanks, Callum,
absolutely.
for coming in, and thank you, Will, and yeah.
Thank you both.
Thank you guys.
And we'll so there's a couple other segments we're going to record and then piece things together, and we'll let you know. For our next segment, Kurt was able to track down Alexi to get details about how he creates glow effects using a brush.
This is Kurt from KTPR, reporting from the trenches. Tonight, on Hobby Time, we get to talk with Alexi and learn how to do a really beautiful area light effect, only using a brush. We caught up with Alexi in order to find out more about his style and where he plays.
I like to play all over eastern Massachusetts. I'm very willing to drive, so I play in the Norton Battlegrounds, Framingham Battlegrounds, Squablin Goblin, up in Belmont. So those are the three stores that I hit most of the time. I'm known through here as Alexi, but also as French Fry, as a gamer tag. And I'm pretty new to the playing in public and tournament scene. I sort of got into that back in July, and I've been trying to stack up some tournaments since then and hitting the stores for Thursday night games when I can, and sometimes pick up a game on Sunday. But it's been a really great time, really awesome community, and I'm happy to be part of it.
I am really interested in talking to you tonight about your light area effect that you did on your Chaos Death Watch. I struggle with the hobby. I do my best. I think some of my painting's good. I think some of my painting's trash, but I look at other people who paint, and some of it is really astounding. And the pictures you put up, and even when you came with your Death Watch, really nice work. And you say you just do it with brush, and I'm sure there's a technique that other people can learn from. And so just trying to share that with others.
Absolutely, yeah. I really enjoy the hobby. I would not at all say I am on the level of some of the people in the community who are, winning awards and making some really spectacular work, but I do what I can in sort of creative constraints, as I always trying to set aside like very limited amounts of time. So I make plans for like what I can get done in 2 hours or what I can get done in 45 minutes a model for a team, or an hour a model, or 2 hours a model, depending on what I'm trying to accomplish.
Yeah, I saw your kit bash pictures. You put them up, started about 3-4 weeks ago when the Death Watch initially came out. And I have to ask, what was the inspiration to make the Chaos, to make them evil?
I had a lot of Chaos parts was part of it. I have 2 other Chaos teams in the Legionary and the Plague Marines, and I don't own a single official kill team model. I completely bashed all of those together through 40k pieces and Age of Sigmar pieces that I had kicking around. And so with Death Watch, I had the actual models in front of me for the Imperium, but I was just, I wanted to put a different spin on them. The big advantage here over a lot of other models is this is Marines, so shoulder pads, helmets, backpacks get you a lot of way towards making new models. That and a little bit of putty and a lot of glue, and it wasn't too hard to be able to convert, loyalists into heretics pretty quickly. The other big part of it was just having access to a lot of the bits, and some 3D printed bodies for the Gravis Marines, because they were definitely the harder parts to replace, because I hadn't held on to those pieces, and you need 3 of them, and the kit only comes with 2, so that became, looking for how I was going to stand those in, and I had some 3D Chaos bodies that were a little too big anyway, that I had not used for another project because they were too big, and then that's exactly what I needed there. But as a conversion goes, it's really 1-to-1. So something to get on the table quickly, but still have sort of a personality. That became a pretty obvious choice of these guys are going to stand on the same bases. They're going to look right. They're going to not be modeled for advantage. I don't have to worry about like turning a dinosaur into, an orc, or, some of those really awesome kit bashes that you see people do. Not having to worry about those sort of bigger creative problems made this something I could get done, I think, in 1 or 2 evenings to do all of the modeling, and then moving on to the painting. Really hide the messy parts of the kit bash in dark colors, and then be able to bring out the glow effects to sort of add personality to each of the models.
Picture you have of the whole team, and they seem to be on your hobby stand, and it really pops the specific blue and green areas. I'm curious, did you have to do like a multiple layer buildup of paint below that? Was that just prime and white? Like, what was your process there?
So the process for all the glows are pretty similar. I've got red, blue, and green on these models. Um, and what I like to do is make sure that the area I'm in is as dark as possible. Um, so that's why we're looking at, the base coat here on these models is a metallic sort of zenithal, so a metallic slap chop. So primed black, dark metallic, dry brush, bright silver metallic dry brush to just hit highlights. And then everything over that is contrast paints to make the browns and blacks and dark silver metallics and add the oil and the grime and everything to sort of chunk out the different areas of the body to get, something that looks like it's been painted, but at the same time is something I can do with a really big brush really quickly. And that gives me this really dark base, which then allows me to build up the highlights. And the way I do that, I am a brush only person. I do not have an airbrush setup. So for me, I'm working from dark to light with layering and dry brushing a little bit, but it's mostly paint layering. So you're starting out for me with the darkest color over the widest area, and then working inwards towards lighter colors on smaller and smaller and smaller areas, hitting more and more of the highlights. So I start out with the darkest color of what's going to basically end up being the edge of the glow. And sometimes I'll use a contrast paint for this to sort of not coat the model, so to speak, so that some of the detail under the model can still show through. So I'll hit the whole area that's going to glow with contrast paint. And that's definitely the most horrifying part of painting glow effects is your model is essentially done when you start painting the glow effects on or the object source lighting on. So you have to sort of take this deep breath and be like, and now I'm going to ruin it. And then you move on to putting paint over your good paint job, or paint job, depending on, I don't know if I'm doing a great job before I get to the object lighting. One of the things I try to do is actually make it not be too precious, so that I feel a little more confident going over it. So I start with that contrast paint, and I just hit everywhere that it's going to glow. And then I go inside of that line. I start with a slightly lighter color, but still sticking with sort of saturated colors. I don't like to start lightening the color with like white. I try not to do that and really till the very, very end of the process, because everything's going to become, pink or baby blue or, sort of pale green, and you want to avoid those colors unless that's exactly what you're going for. And so then I just work through a step that's usually only 3 colors, 3 different paints at most. So I'll start with that contrast paint, and then I'll blend that in a little bit with a mid-tone. So with the green, for example, I started with a dark green contrast paint, and then I went to like a phthalo green layer paint. And then with that, sort of dry brushing and layering in all of the areas that sort of block out where the light's going to hit. And then hit with that medium tone, and then I start actually blending up a little bit. So then I'll mix that 50-50 with the next paint, which will be sort of the main bright color that I want. And then going back with that, I'll then go to that color purely, and at that point I start dry brushing. So then I'm just dry brushing on where the light's going to hit on anything that's glow of the light landing on it, and then I really, really hit whatever is glowing. So in the case of a plasma coil or a flaming sword or a glowing piece of metal, that will get all the way up to that color. So in the case of the green glow, that was moot green and flash gets yellow. And those actual colors are really visible, like on the glowing sword or on the glowing flame skull or on the flaming shoulder pad or the big cleaver that are painted out there. But everything else is sort of a muted, darker version of that. So you don't need much of the real tone to really hit, especially on where the light's being cast. So everywhere where the light's landing can be quite a bit darker than the thing that's actually glowing. And then I'll top that up to the brightest point where I want to go. So with reds, for me, that's usually a orange or a very bright yellow. With greens, that also sort of terminates in bright yellow. Flash gets yellow, I think I used for both the red and the green. And then with blue's a tricky one because very light blue has sort of a goofy look to it that sometimes doesn't come through very well. So I will usually top blue out like the plasma gun blue with bright white. Um, I don't get very clever with it. I'll just go in with bright white, top everything out, and then be very selective about where the bright white hits.
The nice plasma you did, and that's really really apparent with that blue glow. And again, it's a hard tone to do, but just the light dry brush on the armor, you can see the difference. And that's what I was curious about, and you describe it as a light dry brush. That's really fascinating.
Yeah, there's definitely sort of higher tech ways to do it. For me, it's really all about time. You know, I have a couple kids and I don't have a ton of hobby time, and my time is definitely like, am I playing the game or am I hobbying? And I've been trying to play more, so that means my hobbying has to be even faster. So any shortcuts I can take with contrast paints or dry brushes are a huge plus for me. And I think the real tricks for me as far as the object source lighting or glowing or, you know, however you want to talk about it, is to start dark, make it so that your color that you're having to have glow on the model, like if you're lighting up a helmet or you're lighting up a shoulder pad or you're lighting up a chest plate, that the area around that is very, very dark, because then the colors themselves, like right out of the pot, so to speak, the paints are going to be able to make that look like there's light casting on it and there's light landing on it, even in colors that are a little trickier like blue. It's going to work because you don't need a lot of paint to make it clear that you're getting some light reflected. I know on these models, I've got a head taker who's got the blue glowing blades, and that glow effect that's landing on the model is, I think, only contrast paint. I don't think I actually even bothered to get to a dry brush on that because I knew the glow was going to be very faint, but because the model's almost black, like it's 2 or 3 layers of contrast paint, starting with, you know, a larger cone and then a narrower cone and then a narrower cone to sort of create the effect that light's glowing on I believe the helmet and shoulder pad of that model. I'm a strong believer in test models. You can always find a marine body somewhere. And for me, I will just paint up a random body that I've got lying around and see how the color scheme I want to build works. I'll try to keep track of all the steps that I take, either with pictures or taking notes. And then I'll just batch things out. So I'll hit everything with the contrast paint. I'll hit everything with the darkest layer paint. I'll blend that 50-50, hit it with the medium layer paint. You blend that up towards the highlight and just work through the whole batch of each color at a time, going through all the models. And that way I can make sure that, you know, the green glow looks like it's the same sort of material or the same sort of glow on all of those models. And the blue glow looks like the same kind of blue glow on all those models. And, you know, the different things can glow different brightnesses. Like on the Watch Sergeant that I've got, who's a Plague Marine, the green glow of the blade is much brighter than the pink glow off of the plasma pistol. And so, you know, the plasma pistol only reflects a little tiny bit and the green glow reflects a lot. But because they're on separate sides of the body, I don't have to worry about the green light and the pink light interacting with each other. Those interactions could be extremely cool. Like, I'm sure someone's made a gold demon with, you know, those two glow effects hitting each other and contrasting on the body in an interesting way, but I don't know how to do that. So for me, it's all about, well, if I make it be in part A and part B and they never touch, then I don't have to worry about how these very complicated but potentially very cool interaction has to happen.
I'm actually glad you brought up your Watch Sergeant. I wasn't really sure which model he was just with the Kit Bash team, but I think he has like some sort of backpack or tentacle thing coming out of his back, and it's a really exceptionally well done model in my opinion, because you have the green of the sword and the pink of the plasma. And it's also, to me, really fascinating because I've always thought, oh, you have to use white or some other bright color below whatever neon or light effect you're using. And to hear that, provided you use the powers of color interaction and contrast, you can really create it just by having that dark base. And that's a interesting color interaction I would not have thought of.
Yeah, it's that's definitely the model who, like, Well, there's a couple of them that have like no parts shared with the actual Deathwatch models, but have all of the GW appropriate weapons. So he's got a power sword and a plasma pistol. So that's always the thing when you're playing with people. You have them. You pick up your mini and you sort of spin it around and show them. See, I did this. I did this. I did this. Can't always
That's a
capture that
great-
well in photos.
That's a great moment, though, isn't it? To be like, oh, and it makes you feel so proud.
I mean, that's one of my favorite things about playing in tournaments is, you get to see everybody's creativity and all the stuff that they've done, whether it's kit bashing or painting, that part of, this hobby that feels so different from like playing a video game, even playing the, online versions of this game, playing on TTS, is you see people's creativity and the time and the thought that they put into the, miniatures they came to play this game with. And so there's not just the hour and 45 minutes you're playing your tournament round with that person. There's also all the time they spent and all the time you spent to get your teams on the board for that. And that's what's a really exciting part of the game and the hobby for me.
Have you got your guys on the table in tournament or casual
Yes,
play?
I did. I got a hobby store game in with them last weekend. And it was great to have them out. I had my terrain out as well that I'd finished up. I got my Tomb World terrain painted up. And so being able to get my guys out on my terrain and see the paint jobs that the other person brought as well was just a lot of fun. And I'm looking forward to bringing them to some tournaments coming up.
You should be very proud of them. They are looking phenomenal, and I wish you best of luck this Saturday at Norton. I assume that's your first tournament you'll be going to. Again, we really appreciate you coming on our inaugural hobby time in our first show. This is a really cool technique that you have shared with our community. Please keep doing what you're doing. And if anyone else in the larger community has a specific strategy or technique for painting and hobbying they'd like to share, please contact myself or Milton at KTPR, Kill Team Public Radio at gmail.com, and we'll get you on the show to share your expertise. Thank you again, Alexi, and have a great week. Milton, our investigative reporter, went over to New Hampshire and brings you this report on Midgard Games. Sweet, and we are...
All right. So, Milton here, and I am joined by a guest today to talk about Midgard Games in New Hampshire. Would you like to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm Zach. I'm from Pelham, New Hampshire, and my local store is Midgard Hobbies and Games in Derry, New Hampshire.
Nice. And so I've played a little bit in New Hampshire personally, but I don't think there's like a huge meta game, and oftentimes people end up kind of driving by it. Is Midgard one of the stores where the community's still kind of growing?
Yeah, Midgard is definitely one where it's starting to grow. With third edition of Kill Team, releasing last year, we did a league that ran for like 6 weeks, and that was really great. It started pretty much when the edition dropped, and it was like everyone was learning at the same time. That was a lot of fun. We've tried to keep some of that momentum going. Midgard specifically is like a very 40K heavy store. They've got everything going on there, but 40K local series there is just very popular, very competitive, and well attended. It's hard like pulling some of those guys away to play Kill Team and trying to grow Kill Team, but we're having a good time with it right now.
That's awesome to hear that the community's been growing. So how long have you been playing Kill Team? Did you jump in around the edition change?
I did. I bought what was it, Hive Storm specifically because I wanted the Tempestus Aquilons to play with my Imperial Guard in 40K.
Okay.
And I was picking it up and they mentioned that they had this league running. I was like, well, I have this whole box. So I was like, I'll try it out. A couple people were like really hyping it up. Thought it might be good. Mm-hmm. And the league was run really well, where there was like a concurrent like painting competition running on with it, and like there was a raffle for like getting your terrain painted and built and
Nice.
painted. So like encouraging the hobby portion of it as
Yeah,
well.
that's a great way to run that sort of thing. So I understand that you've got folks that have been running some regular events there, which is great. Since a lot of people came in around the edition change, are a lot of people playing the newer teams, or does the local metagame have a certain skew to it there?
Yeah, so we've been doing, with each one of these teams releases, there's a lot of interest in some of the new teams. But like last year when that league was running, and the new teams were Aquilons and the Vested Stinglings. Even at that time, people were still playing. Like there was a good mix of people who were coming into it new, and then people who were playing some of what they already had from like second edition. So there was like a lot of chaos teams. So we had like a lot of legionaries, a lot of plague marines, nemesis claw. Those were kind of the teams that you were bumping into all the time. Within that time period, there was a lot of Vespid and then Aquilon's players as well because they were the new hotness.
Yeah.
A couple months, we did not see a real pickup when the Rattlings and Record Crew were released with Brutal and Cunning. But with Blood and Zeal, everyone was playing Warmongers. Nobody was playing Save the Fires. Kind of a gentleman's agreement. Everyone knew they were like a little bit overtuned and wasn't fun to play. A lot of Warmongers though. And
So-
everyone had trouble.
So if
Go ahead.
there's just because you mentioned that sort of gentleman's agreement to okay, maybe we don't play Sanctifiers with our friends. Is it a shop that has a good culture of we're here to have fun and play a competitive game, but not try to be too sweaty, or what's the vibe at Midgard?
Yeah, it's kind of like the opposite. I feel like a lot of people who are playing Kill Team are just like otherwise burnt out on 40K. They're playing Kill Team because they didn't like necessarily the sweatiness of full side of 40K. So they're coming into it and they just want to have a good game and spend a couple hours rolling dice. So a lot of people are learning, and I think we're all trying to help each other learn and get a little bit better at the game. But nobody's showing up to the local tournaments or the game night to kick in teeth or practice for grand tournaments. They're generally showing up with something that they just enjoy, like a team that speaks to them a little bit more, or they enjoy the play style of, but
Nice.
not particularly sweaty or competitive. There's a lot of take backs, playing by intention, just kind of talking it out, what's going on. It's pretty. I would say it's on a less competitive side, a little bit more relaxed.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's a great sort of culture to have. And you mentioned a lot of folks playing the things that they're drawn to instead of trying to play whatever they think is strongest. Are you still playing Aquilons a lot, or have you moved over to something else?
I do like getting them out from time to time. I just enjoy them, but I've just been playing Rattlings since that box came out. I've just been playing Rattlings, so I might try something else out occasionally, but I keep on coming back to them. I love those little guys.
Nice.
So yeah, that's my team that I've been playing with.
Awesome. And that's really the main questions that I had for you, just to get kind of a little snapshot of the community and introduce Midgard Games and yourself to some of the folks that are listening to us. So thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. And we're going to, at the end of the episode, talk a little bit about what games are going on in the local community. So keep an eye out for Midgard Games. You should definitely go out and give them a shot.
We'd love to see new faces or anybody who wants to learn how to play Kill Team who hasn't tried it, and it's something that seems interesting to them. We love teaching over at Midgard. I know myself, I like to get in a learning game with people. Matt, the TO over there, also he's been very patient and doesn't mind helping out new players. We have locally fellow Mike who's going to the World Championships this week down in Atlanta. He really enjoys teaching and showing people how to play the game. and kind of working through it and like showing them like how their team works. So if you're interested in it, we'd love to see it. Come on out.
Awesome. So I think that really covers everything that I had for you specifically. Again, thank you for jumping on and doing this. Try and encourage people to play outside of their local town because it's fun.
Our next segment is a battle report, bringing you live action. I caught up with one of our Boston players who was at NYO. We'll pick it up with him.
Yeah, so thanks for having me. My name's Phil Seidel, actually, and I am part of the Northern Horde of New England Kill Team, otherwise known as Vermont. I play typically at the Vermont Gaming Academy with a bunch of really great guys, part of Adeptus Adequate, sort of we're like a little band of brothers, I guess. I'm kind of known in the circles here as the Nomad, though, because I have played a Kill Team tournament in every single New England state this year. And I play a lot in Mass and Connecticut because I happen to be down here more often than in Vermont. So,
well, welcome, Mr. Nomad. We really appreciate you being on our show this evening. Is there any game from NYO that stands out to you as one that you'd like to talk about, a particularly nice win or a particularly hard loss or tie?
Yeah, so this was my first time really going to NYO. It's my first year of playing Kill Team competitively for giggles and wargaming at all. But I think the game that really stuck in my head was the fifth game of the whole tournament. I got to play Evie, who it was eventually the winner on Canoptic Circle. I should probably mention I was playing Sanctifiers. I was the lone crazy person in the room, so I had the big yelly priests. And we played on map 2 of Tomb World. And our crit op for that one was Data, which was quite an interesting pick for our teams.
You said you played Tomb World. Was there anything that about the terrain that influenced your setup? And did the match itself influence your decision how you placed?
So Tomb World in itself is actually a good place for Sanctifiers right now, but it is also a tricky sort of map as all close quarters are, just because the auras are more difficult because of the walls and doors and hatchways and stuff. So measuring all that out can get tricky. I decided at the beginning that I was going to use my missionaries and the cherub to go to the left and go through the breach point side to the point and like sort of hold down that room. That turned out to be a little bit of a mistake later. We'll get to that, but turning point one, my idea was I'm going to put my ball in the middle. I'm going to put a couple of guys on the right side so I can go tap that point or deal with it, and I'm going to bring the other heavy hitters up to the left. And so that was the initial game plan. Evie deployed her sort of opposite mine, so it ended up sort of almost mirror looking.
You were playing Evie, so I doubt she gave you any early shots or positional mistakes. Were there any shots that rang out in the first turning point?
Yeah, actually there were, and it was mostly because I misunderstood or misinterpreted or forgot. Pick your way of looking at it. Did not realize that they had Seek Light on the shot because I had not played Canoptic, and Blast. So it ended up. She felt really bad about it. She's like, "I'm sorry, this feels bad, but I'm gonna do it." And I'm like, "It's a tournament, go for it." And so she ended up opening up a blast onto my Melta Gunner and the Cherub. Nobody died.
For turning point 2, did you have a plan for the mission crit op? Were you trying to press an advantage, or were you really just trying to reposition and play for later in the game?
So, really playing later, because one thing with Sanctifiers is that they are much better later. The key thing was we were playing Data, which as a crit op for me is fantastic because it and it comes up much later in turning point 3 and 4, but basically because the way that one works is, you're sharing all 3 points, and you tap them during turning points 1, 2, 3, and 4, and you build up the score on the points. But then you can't score the points on the point until turning point 4. You get one per turning point if you did the action more than the other person. So during turning points 2 and 3, I was more than happy to let my opponent basically do all the work on the points and be like, that's fine, you can tap them. You'll get those 2 points, extra points for doing the action more than me. That's fine. I'm not really interested in that. I was not playing crit op as my primary, so it was like, I'm like, okay. And I did know that as long as I can get to those points, and I have more bodies and a little bit more movement and more freedom agency because I don't have to worry about the matrix to go to those points. So as long as they're clear, I can go get them later. And was the one for the drill abbot because I put him in the front of the death ball, got him up pretty far up into the midboard, right where the obelisk nodes were, and basically effectively created a 6-inch. You don't get your free APL zone, whereas we were calling again in the game the no fun zone.
No, that's a really good trick. The no APL I am not a fan of. Effectively combats the Canoptic well. Like that's a good trick for that matchup. You used your tools appropriately. Was there any point at like the end of turning point 2 or beginning of turning point 3 you felt the momentum shift dramatically, or like going into 3 did it seem even?
Going to the top of 3, it was pretty even. She had done 2 retrievals. I had done an envoy. We had tapped points. She was ahead on the points. She had killed a couple of my guys, of which wasn't a big deal since I got 11. And we started, basically moving people around. She managed to kill a few of my people. I made good use of the teleporter pad to get over and actually remove the reanimator.
Hey, when you fight Necrons, you got to kill that guy first every time. Take out the reanimator. It's the top tip right there.
Yeah, no, but we were still playing under the old rules, right? Where it was, you could heal with that guy 4 times a round, whatever. So it was very, very important to not have that person around.
Was there any like specific ploy or like tactic that happened in turning point 3 that sort of turned the game, or did it all really happen in 4? What was the spiciness at the end?
It all really happened in 4. So it was sort of, she was pulling away at the end of turning point 3, denied me a point. She had all of her boxes all wrapped up and ready to go with.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, being behind like that can really sort of affect how you think. Did it really change your tactics at all? Did you push for kills or try to specifically play just for the envoy point? Like, how did being behind change your play?
So my play did not change very much because I had figured out in my head that I might be behind, but I have like turning point 4. We can score a lot of points on the crit op, so I can effectively catch up there. If I can get my 2 points on my envoy, I can get 5 out of 6, which is still really good. And I'm like a point behind the kill op. So we're like still in this thing. But on the scoreboard, it looks very bleak. And I think that was a moment where like Evie, like when we were talking through us, Evie looked at us like, I think I have this, like I'm ahead. Like I look at the score, and so that's when some interesting things happened at turning point 4. But I think the biggest, wildest play of the whole game, and it really was the linchpin of the game, was at that point, I think she'd had enough of me like kind of stealing points and like kind of coming back. So she took that Geomancer, did the magic for APL, and then jumped through the wall right into my confessor, like charged my confessor who was standing like just right there with his entourage around him. And 4 APL coming in totally ready to just murder my confessor. And I'm like, oh crap. I can say crap, right? Yeah.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah. And yeah, it's not 60, right? And so it just went and like dropped it. And it's like I was like, oh my god. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna nope this. And she's like, okay, you can nope it. Like I'm like, well, it's all I got right now. Like I'm gonna nope this. She's like, that's fine. I'm 4 APL. I'm like, I, I got no choice. So I needed to roll a 5 or a 6 to nope the fight from the Geomancer. I rolled a natural 6. And I ended up to I fell back with my confessor and I moved all my guys away so that she couldn't kill me there. And the rest of the sort of, and then I moved my envoy to get my extra 2 points to get to the top. And then like, that sort of just like, that was like where the game fizzled out. It was like, big try to kill, big nope, everybody run away.
That's actually a really fascinating rules interaction, right? Because you weren't able to nope the charge. The Geomancer was out of line of sight, but as soon as the Geomancer, digitally projected itself through the wall, you could then nope the fight because it was in line of sight. That's a really fascinating rules interaction. Fun to find.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a fun one, and it's one that I've actually started to learn more about with the Confessor is that you can nope any action as long as they're within 6 inches of the Confessor. And if you're not successful on the first action, let's say someone's trying to like shoot, and you don't do that, and everybody lives because like let's say they shoot you, and you're like, okay, well now I'm gonna play my get down, Mr. President. You shoot the other guy over there, and that happens, and then like okay, now I want to like run away. You can nope the runaway too. So like every time there's an action within 6 inches of you, you can keep trying until you're successful. So like or if someone's trying to dash away from you to go around a room, this happened to me the other night playing the game, and like they had to like dash out the room to shoot my envoy in another room on Toon World, and I wasn't successful this time. But in order to do that, they first had to dash, and I was like, okay, I'm going to nope the dash, but I wasn't successful. But if I had noped the dash, they wouldn't have been able to get over there and get like because they would have lost the APL and wouldn't have been able to get over there. So like, there's lots of little nuance with the condemning declaration. But yeah, it was a wild interaction, and I still can't believe I actually like. So that was pretty cool. But in the end, we tallied up the scores of the other game, and she had gotten 2 on the kill grade, although just barely. She had gotten 5, and I can lose up to 7 to get before 3, and I had gotten just the reanimator at that point, so she got the extra point there. And she scored 6 on tack up, and I got 5 on tack up. We both primaried it, so we got the 3, and then we basically tied on kill up or on crit up because she had done all the work plus the 2 on the far one that I didn't go get, and I stole all the other points. so we ended up 17-14 in the end, but that's where it was cool. But
hey, you fought it
as
out.
I often do, I was replaying the game.
You fought it out and made it a tight match, though, right? Like that was a part of the shtick. Well done. Did you have like an MVP operative? And what was the moment that made that operative such? Or was it the big note?
Yeah, see, I think I had 3 in that match, but all for varying reasons, right? Like, it's easy to pick the confessor with the big nope at the end, right? It was like, wow, we just like totally did the most amazing thing, noped, and just we're all stuck. That was wicked cool. Just for his presence, the drill abbot honestly could have been the MVP, and he never fired a shot. He picked up 1 like center marker's worth of stuff at one point, but he basically was just there to screw with everybody else, and he did a fantastic job of that. But I think the one that I would pick the most was the one that really started the undoing and got me back in the match, which was the Death Cult Assassin and his ability to sneak up, tap, and grab me 3 points in a place that nobody was expecting. And I think that would have been the true MVP. That was the one that really did the work that time. If I'm ahead, don't take your foot off the gas. And if you're behind, remember the game isn't over until the last die is rolled. And if you keep your head in the game and keep looking for the angle, there are often ways to claw back. and make it at least sweaty and sweaty in the good way. Like, oh, making someone sweat it out because it's not. I'm not just gonna roll over. But sometimes you actually end up tying and winning that way, just because you found that angle. So I try to just not give up, even when it looks terrible.
I just have one last question for you. Is there any advice you have for anybody who would like to go down to NYO next year, or anybody who might be thinking of doing a larger tournament of that nature, such as Ironweld or Everwinter?
Yeah. Two of them. One I'll take credit for, the other was sort of told to me. Do it. Number one, just do it, because you're going to be, no matter what, you're going to get 5 games, 6 games against somebody who likes the game as much as you. It's really exciting and fun. And it's a really great community down in New York. It's a great community up here. You're going to have a good time. Win, lose, draw. You're going to have fun, which is kind of the point at the end. And then the other thing that I was taught or told when I first started going to like a tournament by like Will and Milton in Vermont was like, set small goals. Like, attend your first tournament, play your play your allotted games, and try to get better in each one, or find a thing that you didn't know in each one.
That is also excellent advice. We always say, shake hands, good luck, have fun before we play, and it is all about having fun in that event. So thank you so much.
And when I do that, I really mean that, right? Like, good luck and have fun. And I really emphasis on the have fun. Like, luck is luck, but let's have fun.
Dice be dice.
That's it.
I really appreciate you coming on tonight, Phil. Thank you so much. Our final segment for the day, we're going to call Tactics Time. This is where we highlight a specific interaction that will allow you to dominate on the game board. The next segment in our show is Tactics Time. We'll explore the best move, achieving precise and impactful plays. We'll cover operative interactions and break down specific strategy in order to give you the wisdom to dominate. Share these tips with your community and improve your own play. In today's Tactics Time, we're looking specifically at the Howling Banshee Reign of Tears aspect technique. This is a really great way that you can use your Howling Banshee to kill a low health operative outright or do significant chip damage on a larger unit. In today's example, we have a Tyranid Ravener, 20 wounds, Venom Spitter, overlooking this objective on New England Beta Decima. Quick shout out to the best map pack system we have, New England Beta Decima. So we have our Howling Banshee. He's going to spend his first APL and charge that Tyranid. Right up here, nice little climbing charge. Now, he's going to roll his 4 dice, lethal 5, hitting on 3s, and that's going to probably lay down some significant damage. All right, we ceaseless that 1, and we have a crit and 3 hits. Now, with a crit and 3 hits, he's just going to hit with that crit immediately, and that way deal 6 damage to the Venom Spitter, and then do a quick fallback. That way we've laid down some damage, and we've moved out of hit range. That Venom Spitter does have 5 dice. He's going to throw back against the Howling Banshee, and we don't want to deal with any of that damage. So we've done a quick fallback, and then from our fallback safe position, we let loose with the Shuriken Pistol. And that way we roll 4 more dice against the Venom Spitter. If you do it right, you get 6 damage off the critical success with your sword, and then you get at least another hit, if not 2 or 3 hits with the Shuriken Pistol. You're guaranteeing between 12 and 18 damage against that Tyranid. If it's a Space Marine or other 14 health unit, you've just killed that unit. I hope this is helpful. Please use it to improve your play and use Howling Banshees to the best effectiveness you can. Come back next week to learn another Tactics Time tip in order to dominate in the kill zone.
Thank you all again for tuning into Kill Team Public Radio. Please remember to like, subscribe, comment, and share.
If you have any events or segment ideas, please reach out to the KTPR team via email or Discord. This is Kurt reporting from the trenches.
Milton signing off.